I want to show you, I want to see your volcanoes, and it's up to you whether you want to put the water splash inside the volcano project. Sometimes it looks a little obvious, a little too obvious if you put all these effects together. So some people choose to put the water splash on its own, which is fine. And that's up to you. You should have been thinking about this for the last couple of sessions, the last couple of weeks. And I want to show you fire. Fire is actually pretty easy. It's the same kind of mentality, the same kind of approach as the flag, really, and the smoke. I mean, it's all just particles moving, nodes moving. It just depends on what direction it is. It's like a flag moving upwards. Obviously, the shapes are different. We'll go over that here in just a little bit. I also wanted to try to tackle that steam thing that I was talking about a couple weeks ago for the game department. And I have a couple of drawings, although when I look over there, I don't know exactly where I put them, but I'll grab them, which leaves just a couple of things on our palette to be discussed, and that is orbs and glass, I think. So summoning orbs, glass, and we can do those next week. So you see that we've got a couple of weeks coming in here, and so we're in pretty good shape. If we go backwards, we've already talked about eruptions and bubbles. We haven't talked about gun blasts yet, so we could talk about that as we start putting together your final project. As early as next week or in module 11. All right, so I think we're in pretty good shape right here. Let's take a look at the discussion board. Refresh this. Okay, Isaiah, almost final volcano.
You aren't sharing your screen.
I'm not. Well, what kind of stupid thing is that for me to do? God. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is looking really good here. It looks like you've given yourself a little space for a water splash. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yeah, that's weird. Okay. So this is looking pretty good. Your art direction is good. This volcano right here is a little dark, and so is this one. You might want to brighten it up just a little bit, and you might want to try adding in some extra little details. Remember the rules of atmospheric perspective do call for a lot more detail in elements near the front of the camera. And you're talking like little specks of dirt, right? Or even like a little burned out bush, something like that. And you can even break this plane over here just by throwing those little glop, little bit of rocks or something, a little bit of fissure, or even the idea that there was once a little bit of lava that only came down about that far, if you know what I mean. And you could do something different over here, but I think that just because it's so much in the foreground, it really does call for it. And so, yeah, brighten that up a little bit. So everything else is looking good. It looks like you did tone down a couple of the little nodes right there, which makes it look a little bit more organic. You've got to be happy with that, right?
Yes, yeah, that's better.
The lightning looks okay. I think the lines are looking a little straight. So I'm going to try to get one to pause on it. And so remember that lightning does have the ability to just, be all kinds of different shapes. Let me find a frame right here. So I like what you did there. Did you do one or two different ones? In this,
is the what do you like, two different versions or?
yeah, two different versions.
No, it's the same lightning twice.
Okay. So just like on this particular frame, I might suggest toning down this little area right here and this little area. Just taking a little bit of those lines out of there. Remember that the idea that of the natural root thing is that you see things branching, right? Just and we're looking at just like a tree right here, right? The idea is that there's like a natural rhythm to the way the spatial orientation works just in nature. And so try to be like this, because I think that these are breaking that rhythm, and almost these are breaking that rhythm too. I think that what you want to think about is like the idea of the static electricity part of it, that all of these little tendrils are trying to get away. They're trying to get away from like the core hotspot, if that makes any sense. And so, but they're also going fast. So it's not like they could just go straight out or even backwards. You know, that would be kind of strange. But remember that there is a very big connection, a very big visual connection between the top of a tree, the branches of a tree, the roots of the tree, and lightning. And if you go look at it, there might even be a really strong connection to Fibonacci sequence or the golden mean. And so I think that you just want to make it a little more natural. Like this right here, that one might be at issue as well. So just these little areas right here. And I think you just need to touch them up on that particular frame. In here, I think that what you can go do now is get your eraser and just kind of break up the eruption things here just a little bit. They don't need to be like a fruit by the foot, if that makes any sense. They don't need to be rubber. They don't need to be a piece of plastic. And I think because it is like, the idea would be is that this projectile is coming out of the volcano and it's superheated, it's 3,000 degrees, and it's got some buddies coming behind it. And then there's liquid rock that's just kind of interspersed as it's coming out. So if you were to take a close-up of this projectile, it might look something like that. So try to make it less rubbery or less plasticky. But it's looking really good. You've got to be happy with it, right?
Yes.
The smoke is good. The steam is good there in the background. The bubbles are looking good. So in my playbook, I think that what you may want to do is make the bubble in this pond really small, because you're featuring them here. And you've got another one here. So I think that, you know, just make them really small right here. Or yeah, I think that just make them really small in this right one. And then you'll put your water splash in there. So that's looking good, Isaiah. It's looking good. All right, Jin Hee.
Yep.
Okay, so this is looking good. Oh yeah, Isaiah, did you have the bigger projectiles coming out of your volcano?
Yeah, it seems like I accidentally posted a version where I hid that layer.
Okay.
But yeah, I
That's
do
okay.
have those.
I've seen them. You're in a good place.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jinhee, this is looking pretty good here. Let me turn the loop on. Loop on. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. So one thing that you may want to do here, are you, Jinhee, are you planning on putting a water splash right here?
Yeah, I was thinking of it.
So one thing that you may want to do is switch this and put the mud bubble, just like this mud bubble over here, and paint
Yeah.
this to be mud and then paint this to be water. Because you'll see that the water has lots of really great shapes in it. The mud only lasts for like 6 or 8 frames, you know, it's on 2s, it's either 12 or 16 frames. It's not that hard. It's there, you know, it's just pretty easy. But if you change this little bit to water over here, it gives you a chance to really, really play with the shape of water.
Sure.
And so you didn't leave any place to put fire in here. So one thing that you may want to do is try to figure that out. It's kind of a natural place to put the fire. And I would disagree that your horizon would be perfectly straight. So
Okay.
just aesthetically, I think that oops, hold on a second. What the heck did I do? Well, there we go. Can you still see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. So yeah, I think that what you could do is work on some sort of mountain range that's in the foreground.
Okay.
You know, in a way I'm doing it here is just a little bit too artistically obvious, where I'm trying not to intersect either one of these two cauldrons here. But you could break that up by just saying, oh, there's a third one back there. And it's not that much work. You just kind of have to lead your eye with it, and then break this one up too. So, you know, it's the dawn of time, right? There's a lot going on in our primordial soup here. So just break that up and remember that it should get darker as it goes away. So paint this one lighter, medium dark, and then let this one. So, and remember the rules of atmospheric perspective say that there should be a lot more detail here on this volcano. And I think I would work on maybe this one right here, delete this one, and just kind of make it the one that didn't make it, right? Just make it really small. That's the lava that didn't make it. And then you'll do your water splash here. We can just be like, you know, this area right here for your water splash. And then I think that what that'll give you is a nice little area right here in the middle to do your fire.
Got it.
All right, do you want to take a screenshot of that?
Sure.
Yeah, so do your mud bubble over here. And then you want a giant flying pterodactyl, right?
Maybe next time.
Well, you know, you could do this by just dragging him that way, right? He just flies through the screen, just like you did the clouds.
Yeah.
Just do it the opposite way. And he's this big, right? He's this big, and he just kind of just right through the screen. You're not going to know whether it'll work until you do it, but just try it. Just draw a giant pteranodon, paint him green, and then just drag him. He's not going to be flapping his wings. He's just going to be moving.
Okay.
All right, you want to take a shot of that?
Okay. I got it.
Okay. Jordan. So I saw this like almost immediately last week after class. Like we ended at noon, and you must have posted this like, well, you posted this yesterday. I saw
Yeah,
a version
I
of
just moved it
this.
to make
I saw
sure.
a version of this last week.
It's
And
the
I
same
like
road
where
as
you're
last one.
going with the seemingly monochrome. Could you get rid of this little pixel right there? You see it?
Yes, I can.
Um,
It might just be
so-
artifacting on the LMS, but
Yeah.
I see it on the animation. Yeah.
So I like this. And because of the way you've got your monochrome thing working here, I would recommend a couple of things. And I thought we talked about kind of losing the repetitive nature of a bubble, a bubble, a bubble, right? And you might have had one here that you took out.
Yeah, I did.
Right, so it's still moving. I think you can kind of let so if this bubble is moving right here, put this bubble right here. Just kill this one, right? So I'm just gonna kill my sketch and just put that one over here. Because I think for you, it might be really fun to do a red water splash right here.
Okay.
And that's up to you whether you want to do that or not. Be careful, you've got a wicked tangent right here with the lava that's moving in the background and this little rock.
Yeah.
So fix that tangent.
All right.
Fix the tangent by moving this rock out. Something like that, which will give you a nice place to put fire. Right, you could
Gotcha.
put fire right there. Okay, so you're looking pretty good here. It's nice. So the fire will be red, and then this water can be a shade of red too, in keeping with the whole red theme. Okay, we got that. It's looking pretty good.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Janeska. Janeska's not here yet, so we'll record this and she can see this in the recording. All right, so I reviewed this last week. Those clouds aren't moving correctly. They're just jumping around. I don't know if this is any different from last week. And remember, we talked about this perspective thing. You've got a house on the horizon that's just 4 miles high. And so I suggested to do a whole bunch of touch-ups. The lava is looking good as it's moving down, but it's got some strange little artifacting happening at the very bottom. And remember that we talked about having it be more like a flag because it doesn't loop correctly. And that's really kind of up to you. And this water splash is close, but we're going to go over water today. And this smoke is close too, but just from our critique last week, it needs a little bit of work. Right, Madison? Oh, let me turn the loop on. All right, Madison, did I get a chance to see this last week?
Uh,
I don't remember seeing this.
yeah, there was some changes I did. Like I added the water for the water splash and the lava. And so last week, one thing you really pointed out was these. I had the sun in the corner, and you said to try to
Oh,
do
yeah.
a radial gradient.
Yeah,
So I was trying to do that with it.
right. So I have a couple of suggestions. So I like that you've got this linear gradient back here. I think it's working fairly well. And you've got a wind that's blowing from left to right. So it might make sense for you to kind of give yourself a little cloud bank up here.
Yeah.
That's moving behind. And remember, I showed you how to move things in Toon Boom, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea would be is that really quite literally, if you had an element like right here, The idea would be is that this element right here, whatever thing this is, if we're going to try to work on a loop that is 36 frames, it would be really difficult to get this node to go all the way off the screen and then back on the screen in 36 frames, unless it was moving about this many frames on twos right here. Because that's just the way the numbers work. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 15, and 16. I'm sorry, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15 that would come back on. And that's moving really fast. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that you can do is just kind of let it jump, because you would know how to let it loop. But the other thing that you might want to do is consider, if you're working on something that's 36 frame loop, or even the equivalent of copying everything on your stage, so that you're getting a 72 frame loop, which is twice, and then getting this to be slower up in the front. And then you could put another cloud, series of clouds that are moving behind it. And then even some that are in the deeper background that are moving really, really slowly. So these clouds here move the fastest. They're the closest. This is a medium speed. And then the clouds in the background are the slowest. You'll do a water splash right here, maybe.
Yeah.
And then you can have like a burned out tree right here that's on fire.
All right.
Something like that. Just to dress up your shot, I think that you can, break up the mid ground a little bit and give yourself a better sense of atmospheric perspective.
Yeah.
Oops, hold on. Right, so that's when this little projectile goes in the water right there, you want to splash.
Yeah.
Okay, and so remember that you've got these little toothpaste bits of lava right here. This red toothpaste of lava. I think that's okay, you're allowed to do that, but I think that it's kind of inconceivable that there's only 2 of them.
Okay, so
you may
add
want
more.
to try to put in and make them like a little thinner maybe, and see
Okay.
if you can put in like 2 or 3 more so that you have a total of 5.
Okay.
Okay, so that's looking pretty good too. Let's go back here. I thought I saw some stuff in other sections. All right, first tornado. This is Isaiah. Okay, loop on. This is looking good. You're working with these like sharks down here on the bottom, which I think is fine. I think you just need to add 2 or 3 more of these sharks on the bottom. Your debris is actually working pretty good, and then just double the amount of clouds that are moving around the center core. And remember, and so you're still working on it. Just so go in there and make sure you're putting the cloud texture that's moving around the core, and then you got to get some. So yeah, keep going. You just add the next 2 or 3 passes on it, but you've got the idea. Oh, I mentioned this last week. That we talked about drawing this line over and over and over again, right? But I forgot to mention that the technical name of that is called a moving hold. When you see Ed, and Eddie, you've seen Ed, and Eddie, they take the idea of that moving hold to the 10th degree, and they paint every single frame completely different, and the amount of energy in that line is just way too much. I've always thought that the actual look and feel of the animation would look much better if they toned it down. You know, I would maybe disagree with you about the projectiles that are coming off the ground here, because you got them going straight up, maybe just a little arc or a little bend in them like this. And I think that that would be fine for these, but then get the ones over here that are actually flying out, right? And then remember to play with, you've got a couple of things coming towards camera here. So yeah, just attend to that. And remember that even in this setup here, you can play with clouds that are really far away, and then 5 miles away, and then like 10 miles away, and then 20 miles away. So yeah, keep going. It's looking good. More, just keep going.
Yep.
Keep going. All right, Jin Hee. Okay, I think everything is working pretty well. I think you've got one perspective error,
Mm-hmm.
and you probably can feel it. It's this
Yeah.
guy right here.
Yeah.
Because I think that what your grid is, it's a really fast grid. So that's the ground plane. And this would be the grid that's up in the sky. Just set that up super fast, so that when this little bastard right here, it should be working on this perspective square, which turns into a circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this one, it's just, I think that the shape of it should be more like this. The shape of it should be more like that, and it should be following along the trajectory of that circle right there. So I don't think it should go off the screen.
Okay.
That one right there, that one right there. It
Yeah.
should come close and then go in the front and then like that. All right, so you're in a good place there too. Just fix that one. And keep going.
Okay.
I think that everything's looking good. You've got, you know, I think what you did, maybe, did you render extra frames so that it's got that little jump in the loop? Or is it just the LMS chugging?
I don't think I rendered extra frames.
Does the loop look good for you?
I can check.
All right, so just more of it. And remember to look at your reference close and dress up the core and keep going with it.
Okay.
All right, Luisa. So Luisa,
Hi.
so you did this from the recording, right?
Yeah, kind of. I've
And how
been.
did you feel? Let's take a look.
Um,
Okay, so uh-oh, you're sick.
yeah, tough times.
Okay, so I think you're in an okay place, and I don't mind that each one of these pieces of smoke is got the similar styling like that. Just keep going with it.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got all the other parts to add, and kind of follow the example that we used last week in the recording.
Mm,
Okay, Janeska. Okay. Oops. So I think this is looking all right. It's moving a little slow, more slow than expected, but that's okay. Tornadoes can do that. And just keep going, add more. Catching my eye. This oval right here, the oval that you're using for the top smoke is not moving correctly. It's just kind of wiggling around. You see what I'm looking at? So what I would suggest is come up with a different shape up here that has more of an identifiable shape to it, where you can actually see the nodes, and then animate the nodes going from this, from this position to this position and out, so that it's not just wiggling around. All right, Jordan. Okay. All right, so this is looking pretty good. You just need to do more of it.
Gotcha.
So this is inconceivable though. You got to fix this smoke on the bottom here.
Yeah, it was more of like a reference for this. I'm going to change it. I just wanted that.
Well,
there.
this stuff is working good up here. You've got this direction. And so the smoke, the motion on the ground should be moving this way. And you've got it moving backwards.
Okay.
That's against the rules of nature.
Yeah.
I'm gonna report you to Mother Nature. And she's gonna bury things in your front yards. And this is a quick
Awesome.
fix. There's only 8 of these little drawings down here or something.
Yeah, I could probably just flip it.
So
too.
fix this. One thing that I could suggest to you is, put more in here because you're doing this right. But I kind of like this little rough line you're working with here.
Okay.
And so instead of painting it, it might be fun to get in there and see how efficiently you can do this with like a brush and just paint each one of these things with lines that look like this.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
And just see if you can get some like rough pencil line looking texture on it. It might be really fun. Same thing with the core.
Gotcha.
So you're going to have stuff moving around the core. So see if you can work on some sort of pencil line quality of it rather than filling it in like the example that I used last week looked very procedural coming out of Unity. But it might be really fun to just get like moving pencil lines. Try it. I think that you might be onto something right there. It might be really cool.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try it.
And the other thing about doing it like this is that if you get the external shape of each one of those little cloud stripes, I don't know what else to call them, that when you start quote unquote painting it with just a bunch of random pencil lines like this, they're gonna strobe like back and forth, and it could be really cool. It might add a really strange and odd dimension to your animation itself. It could be really cool. Yeah, but it's looking good. Keep going.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, Madison. Hey, okay. All right, you've got a little jump in a looper. Okay, so this is working correctly. Everything is kind of, all the cloud stripes are timed and moving on the same start and stop frame. So go back and review my notes about how to make that more random. how to start in the middle and then come back to the middle of the loop?
Okay.
You remember me talking about that?
I think so. I might need a reminder.
Okay, so let me see if I could just do it for you on your drawing here. So the way that I mentioned this was that you're doing a bunch of clouds in the keyframes. Now, did I do this in Rough Animator last week, or Toon Boom was not working last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did this in Rough Animator. So it doesn't matter, it's the same procedure. So what you've got is a bunch of frames. And let's say that these are just representing the clouds on 4s right now. And so this whatever this would be, drawing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you've got 8 drawings on 4s, which would be a total of 32 frames. And so that would represent, like, let's say it would represent this cloud right here, this little guy right here. And remember that I used the top-down view of this to say, we're going to divide this up into 8 frames because that's how many keys you have. And so I distinctly remember saying, all right, let's just draw a cloud in this position. And that whatever you're looking at, your camera is going to see, at a normal camera lens, is going to see this piece of cloud in this position. That's kind of sort of what you've got here on this one. And then you could very easily track it that this is technically drawing 1. And then if it's on 8s, right, then the next drawing would be 9. And the next one would be drawing 17. And then you could do your math all the way out. But the next position is here and here and here and here, all the way around. And so we started on drawing 1 right here. And as long as you've got these keys set in Toon Boom, that now you can start on this one. So this would be drawing number 25. And on drawing number 25, you start the cloud back here. So you don't draw anything. And then you go to the next frame, and then you see just a little bit of it. So you can use these same 8 frames to draw a whole series of clouds in different places that are starting and stopping, or starting and looping in different places. So you start one on this frame right here, and that one, or you could even do it logically, starting all on the same frame. That's saying on frame number 1, would say that you start this guy out here. So you draw a new one that's just right there on frame number 1. And frame number 2, the second drawing, you might see just a little tail of it. Do you remember me going over that part last week?
Yeah.
And then so you do that, and so you just do it one at a time. You follow this little bastard right here all the way around with these 8 drawings, and you get it to work, and it's okay, it's working. You say, okay, that one's working. And then you do one down here. And then you say, well, I don't want to start there because I just started this one there. So you start that one right here. So you start that one like right here. And then you follow your key all the way around it. You go, okay, the next one, move it around and go all the way, just do those 8 keys and keep referencing this motion counterclockwise by looking at your key. And then that way you won't be confused, because if you try to do all of them all at once, it would just be impossible. So you just do one little strip of cloud at a time, but you start them in different spaces along the tornado. And you'll know when to stop. You'll know when to stop when you run out of room to draw. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, give it a try. Give it a try. All right, let me refresh this to see if anything got added. All right, Javon, I just saw you arrive. Yeah, I think I've seen a version of this before from you, but this is really great. It's still working.
Yeah, I tried to keep it stylized for
Yeah, I like it.
this one.
Yeah, if you could, I
Yep.
might like you to try to fix the shadow line. And
Yeah.
only for the purposes of making it just completely awesome.
Okay.
Because I think you've got these nice round outside and round inside shapes. So in
Thanks.
terms of that little shadow line, instead of making the shadow line straight, see if you can get it to have more of an arc to it. All right, and I think that you should get this fire to loop.
Okay.
Instead of going away.
Okay.
And I like what you're doing with the little texture on the lava.
Right.
So you've got that working and you've got these little things working here, which are okay. But I think that you might want to try to continue these guys down here a little bit. So try to do both. So are you gonna get this fire to work here?
Okay.
Are you gonna try to put like a giant water splash back here or anything? Or are you gonna do the water splash separately?
Yeah, I was gonna have maybe some rain falling in the lake behind the lava, but I didn't know how it was gonna work, like with all the elements, so I didn't add it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you could just keep this one fairly simple, but make sure that the
Okay.
well, we went over this, how to move, copy and paste complete cycles of animation in Toon Boom, where you copy and paste the elements, and then
Right.
you reposition all drawings.
Okay.
Because you could give yourself, instead of this rock right here, this could just be like a burning tree,
Right.
and you could have a really cool.
Maybe have like the lightning hit the tree or something.
Well, yeah, I think if you think about it in terms of narrative, that yeah, the lightning could come and hit the tree and set it on fire. But
Right.
remember that we're in the game class right now, and so my emphasis is trying to get things to. Could you get this little artifact out of here? See that little pixel that's just hanging?
Oh
right
yeah, right.
It's ruining everything. You're ruining my day, Javon. So we do want things to loop for
Got it.
gameplay. If you wanted to do something more narrative, are you in animation or game?
Yes.
You're in animation. So if you wanted to try something more narrative, then what I would recommend is getting everything working first. So this cloud's working. It's kind of got these wide open spaces. You know, this fire's looping correctly. The rain is looping. And then in Toon Boom, you're going to have, I don't know, 8 or 10 different layers that are all cycling for either 32 or 64 frames or something like that. But if you wanted to introduce the narrative, like let's say that there was the stump of a tree right here.
Right.
And it's just sitting there. It's just hanging out. It's waiting for Armageddon to happen. And so in order to get this working with then the fire on it, you would have to take this whole group here and copy and paste.
Right.
Like 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
But there's a better way to do this. So one way to do this is like keep it native within the Toon Boom itself and just copy and paste and copy and paste and copy and paste, you know, however many times. Because somewhere like right here is when the lightning is going to happen.
Right.
And it's going to hit the tree. You're going to have this flash, and then you're going to have the fire that's coming up from the tree, you know, and then maybe a little smoke that's coming off of it too that lasts the duration. And then you'll have the loop coming back to the beginning. But there might be an easier, better way for you to do this. Do you remember, are you on 32 or a 64 frame loop? You're probably 32, right?
Yeah, I think it was 32.
So this is a very legitimate way to do this, is that you copy and paste the whole group of your animation
Right.
line by line by line by line in Toon Boom down the timeline. Remember that when you do that, all of the parts here become symbols. And so
Right.
what you do to one is going to be affected to the other. So, but the other way is to just go in and say, okay, this is working. So now what you want to do is you want to render a quick, the middle mouse button kills the drawing, the tool. So you want to render a QuickTime movie, and then just bring the QuickTime movie into Toon Boom, and then just copy and paste the QuickTime movie, because it comes in as frames.
Right.
So you copy and paste the QuickTime movie. Is everyone listening? Jordan, Isaiah, you can do this. When you bring in a QuickTime movie into Toon Boom, it comes in as frames, and then you can do the narrative on top of it. Then you can do the lightning, which just starts right here, and then the fire, which then starts looping here.
Got it.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Did I see one more thing in there? All right, so it looks like you're getting caught up here, Isaiah or Javon.
Yes.
All right, so, and you're welcome to do each one of these as separate little bits. I would disagree with your aesthetic though, in that you've got, oh, hold on a second. So I can see some sort of pond, some sort of lake,
Mud puddle kind
mud
of
puddle or
thing.
something. But
Yeah.
what I see is a shot that is 1 point vertical. So that means your horizon is way up off the top of the picture frame, which means that your perspective grid is like this. And then because of that, I think that you should pay attention to like the shape of this puddle and make this
Okay.
puddle conform more to the
Perspective.
oval
Okay.
that would make up a perfect circle. And I would dress this up to say, maybe there's a couple of extra little broken reeds in here. And
Right.
this one too. So this one should be more oval. And then let everyone know that you are following the rules of perspective by putting another one over here. And then that'll give you a chance to really play with these mud bubbles that are in proper perspective. It's a simple fix, but it'll make a big difference.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
then, you know, because this is mud right here,
Right.
what might make sense for you is if you,
The splash.
yeah. So if you just give yourself like the differentiation between what this is mud right here, and then,
Right.
and then this stuff right here is more like sandy, watery mud. I don't know, it's
Yeah.
something different. Like this is just like a little island, but
Got it.
instead of the island being a place where there's dirt, it's just, this is mud. And then,
Okay.
and then this area is just something else. It's kind of like thicker mud,
Like swampy.
swampy
Type of,
mud. You could even draw like little bits of grass coming out of it or something, or weeds or something.
Okay.
But then that'll give you a chance to really play with the water back here, and you can
Right.
do a water splash right here.
Okay. Cool.
All right,
Thanks.
and then just go through your list and make sure you're getting things to me so that I can get the proper points on them.
Okay.
So it's jumping because these clouds are just disappearing right here.
Right. I had meant to fix the clouds surrounding the
Yeah.
tornado.
Yeah, fix them. And I think that there are a few frames in here where the tornado just isn't dressed up as well
Right.
as it should be, like right here.
Yeah.
Remember that you're talking about some atmospheric adventure.
Yeah.
And so you just need to complete it. Like this one's blank right here.
Right.
And make sure you're not doing it random. And so use that little key thing that I described in last week's video. And then I think that you should be able to get these clouds working. There should be, well, in this example down here, there were clouds down here, but you could just use really minimal clouds. But then you've got the debris that's flying up from it.
Right.
And then this one always works, that it's good to have lightning.
Lightning. Okay.
Yeah, and I described a couple of different forms of lightning. When we did the bomb explosion, I showed everyone how to do the white frame, black frame, white frame, black frame flash. But instead of doing that for here, because this tornado could easily be a mile away, so that you've got like an entry point and an exit point for your lightning that might look like this. And it's just, and then you can branch out from it a little bit.
Right.
And maybe this one, maybe that one. And so instead of flashing the whole frame black and white, I was having everyone experiment with a little area around the lightning itself that was kind of an amorphous organic shape. And then in Toon Boom, I was telling everyone to play with the glow, the blur, the transparency, because this is the white frame, black frame, and then a pause, and then the white frame and black frame again. But it's just so far away that it becomes just an area of white frame, black frame. And that's what this is: glow, blur, transparency. And then you could even do another version where you have this as the lightning, which equals your core. And then do a intermediate flash that's just right behind it. It's really close, right behind the lightning. And this goes for everyone too. You can try this, that during that lightning strike, that there's just a really hot core. So you've got the core and then a hot core. That it's like just outline it just a little bit. And remember that this is easy because it's just a few frames. Lightning happens fast.
Yeah.
And then it's up to you whether you want this outer core or the outer flash to be really far away from it, or if you want it to just be a little bit. Instead of the white, you would do something that's just a little tighter to the actual shape of the lightning. It's up to you. I think that in nature, there's all kinds of different atmospheric things that happen.
Yeah.
But again, I think that you play with each one of these on their own level in Toon Boom, because then you can play with the glow, the blur, the transparency. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Now, okay, it's working. It's not the best one I've ever seen, Javon, but it's working.
Okay.
Remember that the whole point of this was that we borrow the same technique for figuring out where nodes go. So I'm just going to do my flag the other way. And so when I set up my flag, I try to give myself a keyframe where I can really see the nodes moving.
Yeah.
Because in reality, what's happening is that you've got hidden waves, so that this node X moves into this position, moves into this position, and it continues to move out. And
Right.
we're only seeing just this part of it. There's actually a very strange tutorial out there in Flash where someone, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, had figured out that the way the waves work in animation is that they're really just kind of this shape right here moving that way, or whatever. Yours is moving that way.
Yeah.
And what they had done was that they had created this shape right here, just for the top and the bottom. And they had just taken like this shape in Flash, and they had moved it from from left
To right. Yeah.
from left to right up here, and they used a mask. So instead of drawing the flag, they just used like a little mask here.
Mhm.
So this was a mask, and this was the mask, and it actually worked. So this little left mask and the right mask, and it actually worked. It was something that was done for Flash games, like in the early 2000s. And it always looked odd to me because you could see the exact same shape moving rather than an animator's hand showing the organic nature of the line work. But essentially the theory is the same. Essentially what you're doing is you are moving a ribbon that
Right.
has like upper and lower nodes on it from left to right, or from right to left.
Mhm.
It's something that, as an animator, because I know you're in animation, that you might want to consider looking at, just in terms of game style animation, if you ever need it.
Okay.
All right, let me take one more look, refresh. All right, like I said, Giovanni came on a little late. Today I'm gonna try to do three things. I'm gonna try to do water and fire and steam in the next 2 hours. And Jordan's like, yeah, bring it on, man. Show me 3 things in one day. And then remember that from our discussion, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. That from our outline that we only need to cover summoning orbs and beams, which you should use for your final, and the shattering of glass. And you can put those in your chemistry lab for the final. And that we are missing the gun and laser blasts. And so what I had recommended that in your chemistry lab, you have a whole bunch of things happening, like a different kind of fire for your Bunsen burner, and you have steam coming off the Petri dishes. You've seen that in, oops, wait, how did I do that? I didn't want to do that. You've seen it in this drawing here. Can you still see my screen? Everybody? Jinhee, can you see my screen? Okay. So what I'm describing here is the usage, and this is not new. It's just that I haven't added it to this drawing here, but I did. You can see that in this. Oops, hold on. In this composition here, there might be a room, and the room would have a certain kind of perspective to it. And there might be a window over here in this room, which gives you the chance to have this orb come in from off screen, break the window, hover a little bit, and then blast something. And so you can use this gun blast over here to destroy something in the room. You can see that I tried to allude to it right here, where it breaks the glass right here. It comes in, it moves around, and then it comes here, and then it just blasts something in the chemistry lab, which explodes everything. And that's a really good way to handle everything that we do in the class for final. And just a quick note that I am considering adding the steam in here, because I think it'll augment your volcano. But also the game department wants steam to happen for their game, and I have a drawing, and I'm going to try to get through all 3 of those today. But I'll definitely start with I think I have fire queued up right now. I have fire queued up. But take a 10-minute break right now. Sorry if anyone had to hear that. I had to yell at my Park Merced people. Are you offended, Isaiah? You're really mad. I can tell by looking at it. God, Billy, what are you doing? Did I tell you what was going on? The woman just moved into the unit that's like right over there, and just like a week and a half ago, and she immediately turned her heater on. And that apartment has been vacant for like 4 months. And during January and February, I had noticed that there was this strange sound, and I complained about it, but then they moved out. I'm like, oh, okay, the sound went away. But as soon as she moved in, she turned her heater on, and the heater is in a closet that has a hallway. So here's her closet, and then there's a little hallway, and then here's the wall for my bedroom. And even though it's a good 8 or 12 feet, the blower that pushes the air all around her apartment is connected to a bunch of wooden joists that turn my wall into a drum head. And so my whole bedroom turns into like this for as long as the heater's on. And for a whole bunch of days there, I had to sleep on the couch, and I'm screaming at the Park Merced people for not paying attention. So there you go. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to do a couple of things. One is that for the board, the effects board on Pinterest, I just noted that this thing, it was new to me. So these little things are coming from Draw with Lorenzo. I'm not exactly sure because I can't see his name. It looks like it says Draw with Lorenzo. And they're kind of interesting. They're kind of busy. And that's a lot of stuff crammed in here. I'm not sure if it's pages from his book or that he made this thing for the internet. But you know, you click on one and they're going to trend. But there's lots of good stuff in here. If you look at the actual drawings themselves, there's lots of really great stuff in there. Like, we're going to talk about fire here in just a moment, and it's like there's some good stuff in here. There's some good shapes, you know, and there's like lots of really good examples. So even though it's really busy, there's lots of good stuff in there. And obviously you can see now that I've clicked that, I'm going to be trending Draw with Lorenzo for the rest of time. And so this is interesting here. When we talk about fire, there are a whole bunch of different kinds of fire. And I don't want you to do this little flame thing. There's a little candle flame, because it's just way too easy. And here it is a perfect example of, in this drawing number 1 right here, this shape of the candle flame, it doesn't even need to move around at all. If you're going to try to do a candle burning for effects in animation, it's just going to wiggle around. It could be a moving hold, because it's unless a waft of air or a little puff of air has come through there, it's just going to be pretty steady. It's when the candle goes out. So you can see that the little animation here, when the candle goes out, then there's some cool little shapes in there. And so we go back up to this one. What we're going to be looking at is, this is like a monstrous fire. This is like a firestorm. And in your volcano, I think that you might be able to get this kind of campfire copy and pasted 8, 10, 12 different times to emulate this kind of brush fire for sure. Remember we talked about this last week, of how to copy and paste and reposition all drawings. And you could do that. You could do that very easily. You could copy and paste and put these far away drawings on their own layer and put a note on it and just say those are a little bit lighter in color or a little bit more transparent or something. And this fire right here is pretty intensive. What we're going to be looking at is something more in the terms of like a campfire. And so these kind of shapes right there. There are different kinds of fire. There whatever's burning, there's torches, but we're going to be looking at just a regular fire that might be on a torch, like inside the basement of a castle or something like that. Something between a torch and a campfire. All right, so there's our little check right there. Let me go backwards because there were some other things that I just wanted to look at. Something like this is very interesting where an animator might choose to have a character that has a tornado of ribbons going around a character and then fire coming off their head and their skull and little pieces of lightning. That could be interesting. And we're going to try to do fire and the water today. So in talking about the water, we're looking at this shape right here. This is coming from Joe Gilland. He's the master effects animator. He works at, he's in charge of the Department of Special Effects at Vancouver Film School. And we're looking at this kind of timing and this kind of timing, but not this, right? This Japanese stuff is beautiful, but OMFG, it would take forever to try to get something like this working. It would take you a month, and we don't have a month. All right, so again, we're just looking to get some other shapes in our eye. And I think that I've put this Joe Gilland water splash in there a couple of times because I go crazy with it. It's just, he was my supervisor on James and the Giant Peach. So I always want to make sure that he's getting enough hits. I don't know. So this is kind of cool. I like this fire right here. Let's see what this looks like. It says it's a GIF. So this is really complicated. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's looping really, really well. There's the fire up front that has a really white, hot core and then yellow, and then a little umber, burnt umber behind it. And then the smoke behind it is red and then a little bit more burgundy. I mean, it's beautiful. And it is probably only 18 or 22 drawings. It just got a little flicker on the gradient, on the radial gradient here. It's working very well. Fire like this is just a little too complicated. So let me show you the demo. I think I have this one pinned just because there are a couple of things that you want to think about in terms of overall motion. So hopefully this keeps looping, because what I'd like to do is just talk about this for just a moment. In the example of drawing a flag animating, we're talking about nodes. And so you look at this kind of overall shape here. And in a flag waving, you got this node moving into this node in the direction like that. And you figure out your frames. I think that what we did is we picked 8 frames. And so the direction and motion of the flag was like this. But in fire, it moves a little bit faster than that, but the technique is the same, the approach is the same. But in fire, you can see that there's a little node that starts right here, and this node moves outwards. And so this is like your first node, that's your second node, and then it moves up here and it disappears. So look at this one right here, it moves outward, so it goes like this and then disappears up here. And so you can kind of see that just from me mapping those two things, you're getting a lot of the direction and aesthetics of the fire itself. So not only does this one move up and to the right, but it separates, it becomes 2 parts and comes up in here to the middle. So it goes this way and it comes up and then disappears up here. And so you've got this left and right movement within fire to kind of deal with here. All right, does everyone see that? So, and this one does the same thing here. This one comes up and breaks apart and doubles over this one, and these two kind of capture into itself. So as long as you can see that, as long as you can see that this node moves to here, moves to here, then you just map this out. You're probably only going to need 4 drawings to get that working, to get from here to there, the same 4 drawings. Oops, hold on. The same 4 drawings. This one, the same thing. You're just going from there to there. You're only going to need 3 drawings in between it. So this can be done with as few as 4 drawings for this fire. All right, so let's take a look at another one. What I'm actually going to try to find, let me see if I can just do this with an image search. This comes to us from John Hallis and Harold Whitaker. Timing for animation. We'll switch it to images. And I don't always get it on the first try. Oh, but I got it. So that's the timing for animation book for all you animators out there and game people who want to do any kind of effects stuff. This timing for animation book, it's like $25 and it's really, really wonderful. Getting through this book, you will understand a ton about animation. All right, so this is the actual page from the book. I'm going to save this. It's coming in as a JPEG. Let's just open this JPEG up and look at it. It's a little small, but that's okay. We should be able to see it. All right, so remember that what we had just seen in that little GIF there was that the nodes were moving left to right. But this one's actually a little more simple. This one, he's talking about the fire moving fast, right when the fire is near the base, and then it slows down a little bit more to the top. So that's the first thing that you want to think about. In this fire right here, it's just moving straight up. It's just moving straight up. So remember what he's saying here with this is our smoke. So this is where we're getting our volcano smoke from. And this is where we got the smoke from the explosion. So there's a lot compacted into just this page. But look, the nodes are moving just straight up in this fire, which can happen. And there are lots of different approaches here. But what he's talking about are these little nodes right here. So in drawing 1, this node moves up and it keeps moving up and it keeps moving up. And then it becomes this shape and then it's gone. And so follow this one. I'll follow it with a different color. So this one starts here and then it moves up a little bit and moves up. It keeps moving up and then it becomes this. All right, and then in the cycling of animation, we start on drawing 5. There's a new node that starts on drawing 5 and moves up and up and up. So in only 8 drawings, he's got this whole loop working. And it's beautiful. This is great. There's some good shapes in here, but these little nodes are the same theory as the flag, but now we have different shapes to think about. So let's go to Toon Boom. And what I have is just my little demo here. I'm going to turn the hotspot off right now. And so I'm going to put in a layer on top of this. That's just going to be a layout. All right, and then in this layout, what we're going to do is we're just going to follow our nodes. I've picked a decent shape here. I drew the lines here just with a really bright red color. I cleaned them up. I was working very cleanly, and I just filled the lines with the orange. So I have a red color for the fire F1, and then I have, it says green, but it's actually orange. But in this layout here, I'm going to pick a new color. All right, so this node right here is going to move into this position. And then just from our Harold and Whitaker, it should move into this position, and then here, and then disappear. Same thing with this series of nodes right here. It should move from this position into this position, into this position. We're going to follow this little open circle right here, which should move into this position and then become this position. So this open circle right here is going to grow and expand. So that's what we're looking at here in terms of the layout. This little shape right here, this little negative space right here becomes this negative space, and then this negative space. So the first thing you do is you start with a good drawing. Let's see what this loops like. So it's looping pretty well. So let's just talk about our keyframes. And I'm going to take the stuff on my layout off right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do another series of flame right beside it. This is going to be F2 for fire 2. All right, so what I want to do is the first thing I'm going to do is just go back over here really quickly and figure out a really good fire shape. This fire shape is good right here. That one's good. You know, this is a little simple. This one's interesting. This one's pretty good right there. And again, I just kind of want to leave a good fire shape. This is too complicated. You know, there's too many shapes in there. So let's see what trends if I click on. This is interesting. There's a lot of variation and movement left to right. This is interesting. There's not a lot of good shapes in there, but I like this one. So I think I've got some good shapes in my eye. So remember that this one, it's pretty much moving straight up and down. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give myself a drawing that gives me my layout. So I want the and navigate away from the pencil. Oh, the layout's off. So what I want is I want to go back and forth and figure out outside and inside shapes. So I'm going to figure out what I want this shape to look like. You know, I want to stop that right there. Maybe I want to pick up on this shape like this. And I'm thinking of a couple of things now. In this one, I'm also thinking that I want to try to get the fire to move from the middle to the left and then back up to the right. And then on this side, I want the fire to move out and to the left and to the right. And then to make this interesting, I'll put a shape that's going to move from the center to the right, to the left, and then continue to the left. So I got those tracks to think about. I don't want, I'm looking at just that the way the fire is moving. Everything's moving to the left here. So left, right, left, right, left again. So that's looking okay. And then I'm gonna augment that by making this move a little bit further to the left. All right, so now back to the green. So what I want to do now is I want to get this shape working right here. And I want my first keyframe to get all of that in there. So and I'm thinking nodes too. I'm thinking nodes. And remember, I've only got 8 drawings to do this. All right, and I'm thinking closed and open spaces. All right, and I'm just sketching closed and open spaces. So this shape right here is moving to the left, and then it's going to cross over and flare up and move into the right, and then to the left again, and then finally just kind of break apart. All right, so I think I'm happy with that. I think I want a little bit more volume over here on the left. Maybe just another little piece right here. All right, and then I can get this part working first. Again, my node is here and here. If I want to follow the idea that the fire is moving fast and then slowing down, this distance is less. This node is going to move from here to here and then to here. So that's not slowing down as much, but that's okay. All right, and then I can think of interior shapes as I'm going. So this might be a hole. That becomes this hole. So I'm going to put a little dot right there, and it's going to put it right there. And then next it's going to be right here. So this open space right here is going to become big and then really big. All right, and then I think I want a little bit more right here. All right, so this is just on my layout, figuring out where I want this to be. Now, if I wanted to, I could kind of think about the idea of what kind of smoke might be coming off of this. Again, when I'm thinking of this smoke, I'm just kind of thinking of shapes and negative space and positive space, negative shapes, and nodes, so that I'm hoping that I could get this to move into this, to move into something like that. All right, and so we've already done a couple of different kinds of smoke. So it should be easy. And again, this is just a campfire. All right, so that's working okay right there. I think the other thing that I'm thinking about here is that I'm using opposite colors of what the elements would actually be, just so that I can see it more clearly when I start drawing it. All right. So what I think I'd like to do is take this hot color. I'm just going to leave it right there. If I wanted to put a node on this layout, I could. Let me do that really fast. Okay, I want transparency. and I want it to be on top of the layout node. So layout is here, transparency is here, into the transparency, into the composite. On the node, transparency comes in at 50. I'm going to take it up to about 60. I'm going to make it about 70, 75, 76. Okay. All right. So fire. Now we're just going to pick F1. We're going to pick a new. This is going to be F2. And that follows along with our layer. So F2 belongs there. Let's just copy our first frame here. We're going to do this rough. Thinking shapes, organic shapes. You know, you could put a glow and a blur on this eventually, but I want some good shapes. And I was thinking about something a while ago that, oh, you know what? One of the things that you do not ever want to do when you're drawing with a Wacom pen that has a middle mouse button on it is that, and this is only, this is something that only Toon Boom has, but you can see that it says animation tools or drawing tools, and you could actually switch to those if you really wanted to. But there is one thing, oh, you know, they might have taken it out. It's very strange that you would be drawing on the stage and you say, oh, I'm going to create an empty drawing using the middle mouse button. But there used to be this thing, and you might have this on your version of Toon Boom, where it says distribute elements to separate layers. And it was the worst tool ever in Toon Boom. And it looks like they've taken it out. What it meant was that here I'm just sketching, and I've got hundreds of little sketch lines. And then if you accidentally click that middle mouse button, every single one of these lines would be distributed to its own layer in the timeline. And I believe with the version that I have here, it's taken out. All right, so that's my first sketch right there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to be working straight ahead here. I'm not going to do this keyframe to keyframe because it just gets a little messy if you're trying to think about keyframes. I can also see that I've got a slight wind. The wind is pushing it to the right just a little bit here. So I'm going to be on 2s. I'm going to turn my onion skin on. I need to see it. And remember that as soon as you make that first mark, that you'll be able to see the drawing from behind just a little bit more clearly. Now, this F2 color is way too close to this, to the color that is the previous color. So I'm going to change this to pink, purple. I think that purple might be okay. All right, so I'm going to take my layout and F5 my layout. And now I can see just a little bit more clearly where the purple is going to go following my nodes. So just like we did before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get my hand to have memory to it. And so I'm going to try to draw the same parts as they move up. So I'm just going to pick up a shape first to get it to move up. This shape right here is going to move into this position. So once again, I think it's just with 8 drawings that we'll be able to do this. And I think that if I try to do 8 drawings to go from this position right here into this position, it would move too slow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up into, the whole thing is just going to be 8 drawings. So this node is going to move all the way up to here. This is going to go to here, and this is actually a breakdown position. All right, so I'm just going to animate it straight ahead. Getting each part to move up. This is going to come up this way. This is going to follow it. This shape is coming up. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my layout. Hold on one second. Well, I want this shape to come up. Finish what I was thinking about right there. All right, this shape has got to move up. All right, I think I've got most of the shapes. This needs to come up. All right, F to G, F to G, F to G. Okay, so what I'm going to do on my layout is with my layout color, this hot color here, I'm going to re-emphasize this motion here by drawing little circles. I want the essence of this moving to the left and then to the right and then to the left. This is going to move to the right and then to the left and to the right again. So when I'm doing this next key, this key right here, I want to tweak that. So I'm looking to this shape moving to the left, especially on this key right here. So I just started drawing right here. I'm going to make a mark that sets my color. And so I'm going to F, go backwards, G, G. All right, so this is going to move to the right. This is moving to the left, and a new shape is coming out of the bottom. This is moving to the left a little bit, and this is moving to the left. And I got a new shape coming in on the bottom. F to G, F to G. So this is moving to the right. This, I'm going to go rogue on you and go opposite. And this is moving to the left. This is disappearing, this is disappearing, this is disappearing. All right, and then I can see just from my arc of motion that there's a general push on the upper stuff to the right. All right, F to G. All right, so this little shape right here is going to be moving to the right. And this is going to be moving to the left. So I've got two things moving here. I've got this part moving to the left and this part moving to the right. So that's going to break it apart right there. All right, this interior shape right here, it's there. This is going to be moving to the left. All right, F to G, F to G. All right, next frame. All right, so the red was before. Again, I always make this mark to see what the clarity is here. And this is moving to the right. And this is going to be just coming upwards. This little shape right here is moving straight up, and also to the right. It's following on that little motion. This is moving to the left and disappearing. This is moving to the right and disappearing. This is moving up. All right, this is moving to the left now, and this is moving to the right, up and disappearing. From our arc, this shape right here is moving up and to the left. This is moving up and to the right, but the other part is moving to the left. So we got counteraction. We got parts moving two different ways. All right, F and G. All right, this shape is going to be moving to the right. So I'm just going to pencil in that shape. I'm going to go backwards to the first frame and study this open space right here as it's moving up and to the right just a little bit, and then up and to the left now. So it's got that shape is already there. So I want to start bringing a new shape in. And then, so now I see it. So now it's going to move to the left. Got shapes moving back and forwards, back and forth. Okay, now we're next on the next keyframe. And this is going to be moving to the left. We want this little circle to move to the left. So I'm going to start here, and it's going to be moving to the left. This is moving to the left. This is moving to the right. This shape right here is moving to the right. So bring it up about that far. This shape right here is still moving to the left, connected to the base and connected to this. This shape right here is moving along this arc. So it's going to move just up. This is disappearing. This is disappearing. This is moving straight up. This is moving to the left. This is disappearing. This is going to be moving to the right. All right, now this open shape, let's study that one. It's moving up and to the left just a little bit. Again, go backwards and make sure we get fire shapes in our eye. And this is going to need a new interior shape right here. All right, so let's go to the next keyframe. Now this shape is going to start moving to the right. So I'm going to draw this one first and connect it with a new shape starting at the bottom. This interior shape is moving up and to the right just a little bit. This is moving up to the right. This is moving up and to the left. This is moving up and to the right. This is moving up and breaking apart. This is gone, gone. This is moving to the left now. This shape right here is going to be moving to the left. This is moving straight up and breaking apart. This is moving to the left. We already did that. All right, and we're going to set our keys here, and then we're going to go backwards and make sure all these parts are not disappearing on us. All right, so let's go to the next keyframe. So this keyframe right here becomes important to us because this is technically a breakdown between the drawing that we've got and the very first drawing. So I'm just going to get a couple of parts moving first. This is moving up and to the right. This is moving up and to the left. And that's a strange little shape right there. I'll have to fix that. It's because it's looking too much like smoke instead of fire. All right, this is moving up and to the left. This is moving up and to the left, but this part is moving to the right. All right, this is disappearing. This is disappearing. This is moving up and to the left. All right, this center piece is moving here. And you can see that my hand is kind of remembering where things are going. And yeah, I don't like this. So I'm going to connect these two parts. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this drawing right here. And I'm going to go back and turn the transparency on the layout down just a little bit more so I can see it. Because we have to technically in between. So I'm doing this on the stage to see where the layout is. Now it's too much, still too much. All right, and if you need to, you can, this is kind of strange that that keyframe wound up right there. I don't want this keyframe, especially on the transparency node. So I'm going to right click and delete this keyframe. Yeah, whenever you see lines like that, that means that there's a keyframe and an in-between, and you don't want that. It's okay to have a keyframe here, but you don't want, especially in a transparency node. All right, so we were on this drawing right here. We've got to get it into our layout mode. So our layout was here. And so what we need to do is we need to get the transparency down just a little more. Oh, it's got to stop doing that. So I'm going to put my cursor here and just get the transparency to be just about 50. And that's why I was setting the keyframe. Okay, so I'm going to study this by just going G key. And I can see my original F2 drawing here and go backwards to this one. And so forwards to this one. So I need this shape right here to be like this. I'm going to go forwards and backwards. And remember that a fire is a pretty organic shape. It can have lots of things, but you do want it to loop correctly. It's my first frame. This is the frame I'm going into. This is my first frame. This is the frame I'm going into, or coming from, I mean. First frame, coming into. So I want this first frame coming into. All right, let me get a go at this. Again, I think the key here is that it's pretty forgiving. You don't want to like do this too mechanically, because then it'll look a little odd. All right, so first frame we're at right now. First frame. Oh, I'm sorry, I went the wrong way. First frame we're on right now. Again, first frame we're on right now. First frame we're on right now. All right, let's take a look at this. I'm going to F5 this. I'm going to add just one frame to that. And let's just see what this looks like. I'm going to turn my layout layer off. All right, so if you're following along, we were just trying to get this to look like fire, and things are moving up and to the right, moving up and to the left. And so I used the same approach for this one as I did with the one that you're looking at right here. So now that we've got these in place for our F2, the only thing that I did on this differently than this one was there's a lot of good shapes right here. You know, I can see that I can go back here and actually go in and close these shapes. What I can do is I'm just going to remind myself to draw a perfectly straight line right here by holding the Shift key down. And then I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to paste it on each one of the keyframes. So go to the next keyframe, paste, next keyframe, paste, next keyframe, paste, next keyframe, oops, next keyframe, paste. Oops, I missed one. And that just reminds me that I want the fire to have a good base. All right, so now that I've got that, I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at the little pieces. So for the little pieces, remember I'm on F2 color. And I can see just by going back to here, what are some good shapes? So remember that the sharp, straight points end up becoming the smoke. You know, this one is kind of interesting. I like how it's looping up and down like that. The shapes are kind of soft. It's kind of neat. I like that one. This one's on your board. All right, so let's add a little. So I see this composition here, and remembering from our layout that we did want stuff to move to the left and to the right and to the left and to the right again. So with that notion in our mind, with the smaller bits, we can pull that off. So right here, I'm going to add a little curl of a shape. And I'm going to say, that's good. I like the way that's looking. If I need to, I can draw a little more. Let's go to the next keyframe. And it's there. That's the part I just drew. So I want that to move to the right. So just like we did with, I can't remember, with our, with the ribbons of clouds moving around, we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to get one little part to move as far up as it needs. So that little red is what I just drew, and I'm going to move it up about this far. I'm going to put it to the right, and I'm going to go here. And so now it becomes part of this, but it goes faster. It's going to be right there. So now I'm just going to come up here, and now it goes away. I'm going to go back to the second frame and add a little bit more. I'm going to kind of scrub this part in a little bit more here so I can see it. All right, so from this composition here, I can see that maybe I want to define this just a little bit more. This is the part I had just drawn. So from what I'm looking at right here, I think I might want another bit out here, but instead of drawing a new one, I'm just going to get this to be a little bigger. And it's going to connect to this one. And this is a nice little shape right there. There's a nice interior shape right there. All right, if you're following along, I think that this one is pretty good. I see that I might like a little exterior shape right here, starting on this frame. Go to the next frame and bring it up into the left, up into the left. Just do one at a time. So now it's going to go up into the left. Changes shape. Now it's going to become this shape, up and to the left, and now to the right. It comes up and starts going to the right a little bit more, and basically breaks apart and disappears into two parts. And then on this frame, it goes away. All right, so now let's go to frame number 3, frame number 4. So on this shape right here, okay, that's okay. So now I think I want an exterior shape right here. Next frame. So that's one we just drew. It's going up and to the right. And this is the whole trick of getting that thing to move left and right. So it's going to move to the right a little bit more, right there, and it's going to change shape pretty radically right there. So it's becoming this shape. And just follow it through. Just do this shape, going up and to the right, just even a little bit more, and then breaking apart. Go to first frame. And you can see that if you draw this little bit of it going up, it continues into the cycle. So now let's go to this frame. And this frame, I think we would want an exterior shape right here. All right, next frame. So remember from our layout that it's going to the left now. So we want this to come up and to the left. And then continue it, just draw one part at a time. So there's two side-by-side shapes right here. They're twins, but that's okay. Next keyframe, it's going to come up this way. And then the first keyframe, so keep your eye right where this is. The first keyframe, now it's going to be right here. So we've added to our first keyframe that we were happy with, but that's okay. We're just going to continue it moving here. And then the third keyframe. All right, so now let's start on the 5th keyframe. And we already did that one. So let's start the 6th keyframe. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of looking at the open and closed shapes. Open and closed shapes. All right, so I think we're okay on this one. I think on this one, I might want a little bit right here. And then, so that's one I just drew right there. So now that's moving up and to the right. Just up and to the right. And then continuing, oh, this part's already borrowing that shape. And so I think we're okay. Let's take a look at what our animation looks like right now. All right, so the only thing I'm not really buying is this stuff that goes off to the left up here. So I'm gonna take my eraser and just kill that little bit as we see it. So I think this is the culprit right here. So I had this one go up. I'm gonna just kill this one. And I'm gonna kill it with just my erasing tool because it's kind of like going against the laws of the wind. And it's gone. So I think there were only 2 or 3 frames right there. All right, so it's looking pretty good. And then I would just go and put my cleanup line on it. So let me come back to the classroom. Do I have any questions about this? Anybody? Okay, so that the art of this is getting it to animate straight ahead and paying attention to your layout. So from this position here on this F2 layer, what I would do is tighten this up just a little bit on the rough layer so that I knew where my shapes were. Just this is and I could turn my onion skin off and just go to the next keyframe and say, okay, this is a shape. This is the interior of that shape. This one, this looks like I might have to kind of make up a shape right here. Remember that the actual motion is working. And so this is okay. I want to embellish this just a little bit. I see that there's an open space right here. I'm going to go backwards a keyframe, and this one's good. So I'm going to start an interior open shape right here. And I'm just going to follow that through for a frame or 2. And remember that fire is pretty organic. So that shape that I just drew right here is an interior shape, but then it animates into an exterior shape, which is okay. Fire can do that. All right, so then this one needs just a little bit of aesthetics on it, just to give yourself what is inside, what is outside. And I think I might need a little bit more up here. Let's go backwards and look at this frame. So on this one, I think I'm going to add just a nice little shape right here. Go to the next frame. Remember, we're doing this wild right here. We're doing this without the layout, without the keyframe. So that little bit that I just drew right there is here, and then it's not. So I need to get it to disappear somehow. And if I draw it here, I might need to put it on the very first keyframe as well. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so then you would clean it up. After you've got it cleaned up, again, use an exterior red line at first, just so that you can follow it closely, and then use an orange fill, or I called my orange film green. Then I went back in and put a hot center on it. So in these little spaces here, I animated just straight ahead a little bit of the yellow. And it's organic. It doesn't go on every single frame. So if I look at this just frame by frame, you can see that I'm just thinking shapes. Fire can change shapes. It could do all kinds of fun things. So for this green color right here, I'm going to double click on this green color, and I'm going to change the name of it to something that's more appropriate, like yellow. And I'm going to give it a gradient. And I'm going to give it a radial gradient. And for the radial gradient, I want this color right here to be yellow. So you see what happened on the stage. See that? So I picked this, I selected this, and I just picked the yellow color over here. I'm going to make it a little warmer. You can see what's happening on the stage over here. The application of this gradient over here changed everything on my stage. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see what it looks like. I think it's okay. I've got some artifacting happening in here where what was actually going on was that because of my paintbrush that I was using, when I had selected the regular paint unpainted, hold on a second. In the tool properties, I had selected close large gap. And so I was chasing vectors. And so this is a consideration to say, you know, I don't know if I like all these little straight artifacts in here. It's kind of affecting the aesthetic. So one thing that you can do is edit the gradient tool. In this, you pick, I think it's this one. So under the white arrow, you pick edit gradient or texture tool, and then you click on it. You just touch it on the stage. Am I on the right layer? I'm not on the right layer. Hold on. I'm on the fire layer. Hold on a second. I don't know why it's not working. And that's technically the way you're allowed to edit the gradient tool. Weird. Let me save this. It's almost like it's locked. I don't know why it's not letting me do this. All right, so that's your fire. I think that I was a little ambitious to try to do fire and water and steam on the same day, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to save this and I'll give you a 5-minute break, and then I'm going to show you water. Okay, take 5. There's lots of different variations on fire. I would highly recommend just sticking with the campfire, or the fire that would be on a wall in a castle wall. All right, so and I think that the other thing that kind of makes this is if you just get some smoke working in it as well, especially in your volcano. It just kind of makes everything, it rounds everything out. Okay, so having said that, sometimes it looks ridiculous to put this highly detailed water splash in your volcano. So you don't have to put it in there. You can do the water splash just all by itself. It's kind of nice sometimes just to see the Joe Gilland look on water. And so again, we're just going to look at a couple of things that I pinned. Sometimes I catch something too. Sometimes something comes from some foreign country somewhere where it's like, whoa, look at that explosion. Like, you know, that would take you a little while to do. You always have to be careful of not missing some really great things. All right, we're gonna go and look. I pinned a a fresh water thing last night, and it's just the same, really the same thing as the other water down here. This is just classic. So let's just study this for a moment. Hey, what did I do? No, stop it. Yeah, okay. So let's study this for a moment. We see this really great drawing here, a very classical stylized approach to animating a splash.
The screen isn't sharing.
Share my screen. All right. Again, this is just from the Pinterest board. There's a really great shape here. One thing to pay attention to, he's got some ripples in the water happening right as the splash happens, but he's got some front water and some back water. In the front and back water, he's got little shapes in there that give you the appearance of like a texture, or showing the density of the water, so that these little loops right here are where the water might be thinner. And then he's got little droplets. You can see that he's giving you arrows here, that water goes to the left, it goes to the right, it goes in all 3 dimensions. It comes towards us and it becomes like a flower petal, and then it hits the water. The leading edges of the initial splash fall back into the water first and are absorbed into the surrounding water. That also affects the ripples. All right, so one thing that he's not showing you here in this example, or in this most beautiful example right here, which is just gorgeous. Remember, he worked at Disney for like 25 years. Everything from like Mulan, Pocahontas, Little Mermaid, all that stuff is Joe Gilland water. There was a whole team, Joe Gilland, Jeff Howard, there were a whole bunch of people. Kathleen Quaife, those are all my supervisors. And they are just like effects geniuses. I'm pretty good at it too. All right, so this is good. One thing that he's not showing you is the little secondary plunk of water, like you're going to see in this one. So when the water splash happens, the thing that caused the water splash actually sends a secondary thing, a little ball of water up in the air that just comes back down and hits the water and causes a second splash. So let me see if I can save this and close this. Now I have my other drive open this morning, and I thought that I saw, hey, I thought that I saw it. Let me take a look at the dates on this. Let me take a look at this. So yeah, this one is okay. So I think that that comes from this water here. Let's just take a look at this one. All right, so this one is pretty good. Let's deconstruct it here. We've got the stone coming in here, whatever's falling, and it is moving and it accelerates and it hits the water. You can see right here that it's the very next frame. So on this frame, it hits the water for one frame, and then the water splash happens. So I've got the water happening here. I've got a transparency and a blur node on the water. That's pretty typical. The transparency is 23% transparent. Please remember that in Toon Boom, 100% transparent would mean that it's completely invisible, and 0% transparent would mean that it's completely opaque. So that one was set at about 23, just to give the appearance that water does have some sort of transparency to it. Let's talk about these shapes. The first thing that we want to do on this example here is, I'm not going to draw over this. What I'm going to do is give myself a new layer. I'm going to give myself a layout layer. And in that layout layer, I'm going to do a second splash over here just for a demo. Starting from on the first frame, what I want to do and I want to give myself a layout color. Oh, look, the black is actually gray. So on this layout color here, I'm going to make this just a blue, a typical animator's rough blue. Remember, I love this color palette. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give myself a grid. Whenever you're doing water, you always have to think about perspective. All right, so I'm just going to hit the right key. I want to make sure that I'm getting each one of those things should be sort of a, oops, I don't want that one there. Each one of these squares should be a perfect square. And they should be getting bigger. So that's close enough right there. This is giving me a definite visual reminder that we are drawing in perspective. So that's my layout. With this, that's my grid. So I'm going to give myself yet another color here. And this one is just going to be on my rough. I'm going to make this a little darker blue so it shows up. On the layout itself, what we're thinking of is that there's going to be a contact point. So this is where the thing that is going to hit the water. So we're going to have the projectile come this way and hit the water. When that happens, it's going to cause a splash. So I'm going to draw the exterior right and the exterior left shapes. And I'm going to draw an oval that reminds us that this is working in perspective. I'm going to continue the arc of the water flowing out to the left and to the right and to the left and to the right. And coming towards us, the lines get a little more straight. And there are lines that go backwards. And this whole thing here can actually be quite a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna, how big could this splash actually get? So this is if the water was coming straight up, if the splash was coming straight up, but it's not. This projectile came in here from the right. So that means much of the water might be going to the left. So on this next layout drawing, I'm going to draw that same shape, but it's going to be tilted a little bit more to the left. So we're actually doing two layout drawings right on top of each other. These little streams of water are going to continue moving, but the new ones are going to be out this way. And so I'm going to be able to see what I'm doing here. We're looking at this as our arc right here. All right, does everyone see what I'm doing there? I mean, I've done this before, so I know what I'm looking at, but I've got two keyframes on top of each other. I could even draw that first one down there. I could even draw the idea of what that first little water splash is going to look like. I can also, from my grid, give myself just the reminder that we're going to have to do the ripples. Now, when you're doing ripples, they don't have to connect. You can just do the left and the right. You can do just them breaking up. There's not going to be a lot of ripples that go off into the distance that we can see. But this is just to remind yourself that just with these ripples all by themselves, that this might be an indication that you want to do the water as a standalone piece instead of putting it in the volcano, because you could put a lot of detail in it. I mean, this thing is just gorgeous. This thing right here, that's just crazy beautiful. You know, we're gonna try to do this a little bit. All right, so this is gonna come in here, and it's gonna splash a bit more water out here to the left than it is on the right. But there's also going to be, as this little rock goes about this far down into the water, it's going to cause a disturbance. And as this water comes back up to fill in that space, there's going to be a plume of water that comes straight up. So there's going to be a little bit of water that comes straight up right here and that gathers and then falls back downwards. So one thing that you can do to remind yourself about these ripples is that There's, this is the main ripple. As each one of the larger volumes of water hit the planar surface of the water, that they could cause their own ripples here. And now you can kind of see why you don't want to draw completely perfect, crazy lines for the ripples for everything, because then you'll just be drawing ripples out the wazoo. But then when this secondary splash goes back down, it's going to have its own little bit of ripples too. And just from me explaining what's going on, this is a good layout. This works. I got the projectile, I've got the contact point, I've got the very first key for the water splash, I've got a third or maybe third or fourth key in here, I've got the fifth or sixth key right here, I've got the seventh key, I've got the eighth keys for all the ripples. So this is a good layout. All right, I'm going to put a drawing on top of this. This is going to be splash 2, and I'm just going to add and close. I'm going to change my layout color. Actually, hold on a second. I think we use this rough color here. But what I'm going to do now is change this rough color because I want to use that blue as my real rough color. So this is, I believe, layout. So I want this to be layout. And I'm going to change it to something more green, possibly. Yeah, and that's working. I like that the grid is the blue. All right, so now with this, I'm going to, my SP2, splash 2, SP2. I'm going to give it a darker blue color. Say okay. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just the same thing that I did with the stone right here, but I'm just going to put this all on one layer just for this demonstration. In this demonstration, this is coming in at frame 15. That gives us the audience a good amount of time to adjust our eye to the scene. And we don't have to be right on top of this. In fact, I could just do this one 8 or 12 frames later. So that splash here has already happened. And then we're going to do a new one. So right here on this frame 31, we're going to bring in a new projectile. So our new projectile is just going to be a nice big rock coming out of it. And it just is reminding you that another way to handle this effect would be is that you do your volcano shot and you render the QuickTime movie, and in the volcano shot, maybe a projectile goes flying off the screen and it's just about ready to hit the water, and then you cut. And in your reel, then you do your water splash as a cut, as a close-up. All right, I'm gonna turn my onion skin back on. I want this to accelerate, so I'm gonna draw the second rock about right here. And then I'm gonna draw the third rock. Accelerating. And accelerating again. And accelerating again. And now the next frame is when it hits the water. So right here, I'm just going to draw it hitting the water. And we're just going to do a rough on this. So really this SP2 should be SP2R, but that's okay. I'm going to do the rough here kind of cleanly. So I'm going to draw a little bit of water coming up here. And I'm going to think three-dimensionally. So this little bit of water right here is actually going away from us. And this little bit of water here is going off to the right. So I am going to try to keep this a little cleaner than I did for our fire. And again, I'm looking at these. Oh my God, look at all those little wispy parts in there. It's like, it's beautiful. But we can't animate all that frame by frame. So we're going to try to emulate that a little bit by just getting a few little bits of water. And then the next frame. So I'm going to go out here 2 frames later. And now you've got to think 3-dimensionally. So that key back there is important. This is going to come up strong. So this little bit of water here is getting a big push behind it. And then this little bit of water is going to start connecting. The surface tension is connecting to the left, but now it's also connecting to a little bit more volume of water that's coming close to us. This has gathered up a bunch of buddies back there, and now it's become that shape like that. All right, and then there's also water that's coming towards us. I want to keep it up a little higher. And I'm going to give this little curve, this is important, this curve right here shows us the dimension of the 3-dimensional cone. And then I'm going to keep this, and this red bit of water here now has gone out to the right, and it's gathered up a bunch of volume as well. And I'm going to give just another little one before I connect it back in. And then following from this interior shape, I'm going to study this. Is there a space where I can put an interior shape? I can get just a little bit right there, maybe a little bit right there, maybe a little bit right here, and maybe a little bit right here. So those are interior shapes. All right, next keyframe. And I'm checking my onion skin so I can see the ones before it. So this is an important keyframe here. This water continues to come out, and you can see that the distance is a good foot. So I'm just going to draw these little bits first here. I'm going to start with this one, and I'm going to bring it out about right here. And you know, I don't want it to look like a flower petal or a hand. I want it to make sure it looks like water. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just play with just this one main droplet of water like this. I'm just going to keep that, but then I'm going to bring this one out by itself. And so this is going to have, I'm going to stop right there because this bit here comes up. So remember we drew this line right here. So now that line has come up about this high. That's the cone, and connect it to this guy over here. And now bring this so that you can see it coming towards us. And connect it. They're going to all break apart here in a moment anyway, but you're going to connect this one. And now the exterior cone. So this is a line we're not technically going to see. That's kind of why I'm just scribbling it right there. But remember that this shape right here is going to come up. And now if you borrow that same kind of look, you'll see it. All right, and then this one and there, and then look at what you've got. Look at the overall aesthetics, the shape. And I think it's looking okay. We want to borrow this shape right here. This is the cone. This is the bottom of the cone. So we're going to borrow this. We're going to go back a keyframe, and we're going to borrow it here too. It's going to widen out, but we're going to definitely borrow it. All right, so now the interior shapes. We're just going to kind of think about our drawing, and we're going to just kind of pencil in some interior shapes. Just a few. We don't want to go too crazy here. The ones that are nearest are just going to be a little bit of them. And then we can do as many little water splashes, little droplets out here as we want, but just keep the aesthetics. You don't want too many, you don't want too little. You want just enough to pull off the aesthetic. All right, so now we've got this thing kind of slanted the wrong way here. I've got a little bit more heavy water here. Remember, we wanted it to be this way. So one thing I can do is, I'm just gonna touch this up a little bit. I'm gonna take these guys down a little bit. I told the teacher that I'm shadowing over George Washington High School that I like to teach students how to do things wrong at first, because it teaches you how to fix things. So I was showing them how to fix things in Photoshop by doing things wrong. And it cost me a week because I didn't realize that the high school students didn't really care. They didn't really give a shit about Photoshop. They practically didn't even want to be there. Right, so you can see what I did. I just changed this so that it's a little stronger over here on the left. And I'm going to even emphasize that by giving me some more splashy volume right there. Now, this gives me a chance to play with that interior shape a little more. All right, so that's a good keyframe right there. And I can embellish this. Next keyframe right here. Now we're going to pull from our main layout. And this one, in this instance of the water here, you don't have to draw the same thing that you did for fire or flag or smoke to have your hands have memory. You just have to make sure that what you're drawing looks like water and that it's in the right place. So remember that water has a surface tension. This is moving out here. And so you want to get as much of that. This is moving towards us and almost hitting the ground or the surface of the water. This line here is moving up to about here. And again, slanted. So see, perfect. I'm following my layout. See that? So then break from the left and come out about this far and then connect it to this one. In order to connect it to this one, try something like that. It looks a little funny. I'm gonna try this. I don't like that either. The problem would be this line right here. So I'm gonna do something like that. All right, so then these lines right here are coming towards us, but you want to try to see as much of that beginning of the cone as you can. So I'm just going to cheat that. All right, this shape is coming over here. This is coming up. So this shape is pointing that way. And the away water is, you can't really see too much of it. It's just kind of going like that. All right, so this shape is important. You need this right here to delineate what is in front and what is behind. All right, so then you can start to just map in some volume of water over here on the left and on the right. So this is going to be hitting the surface of the water here in just a moment. You can draw little lines here. If you look at Joe's drawing, he's got definite lines that show the speed of the water coming up. So these lines here become important. Let's do the next keyframe. And now the water starts to lose a bunch of its surface tension. This comes up about this far. That's true. And you can see each keyframe is about 1/4 of an inch, but it's also losing a bunch of its water tension. So this direction has brought this water out about this far, and this volume of water has come about this far, but it's also losing a bunch of its surface tension. This has hit the water. This is your core. This has come up about this far. This water here has actually moved about that far. And this water here is hitting the water. You don't want all this water to hit the surface of the water all at the same time, but you just want to plan this out. So this water here is reached as high as it's going to get. Or just about, maybe there's a couple of little tendrils of water back there. This has moved, it's going from the position that it's in up and to the right. Again, it's breaking apart. And you don't want all your shapes to be the same. So you don't want that same Lake Superior kind of, and you don't want to do that either. Just like our pixie dust, if you draw a line right on top of the other line, you'll lose all your motion. So let's just draw that shape. Let's draw this shape and then give it like a tooth shape almost. And this line here moved up to here. So now I'm just going to emulate that by pointing a bunch of water droplets towards this line right here. And I can actually borrow it a little bit and go like that. So now the cone becomes important. So now in this keyframe, we might see more of the cone than before. So now we're just gonna get that going. We're gonna get this connected to it. And then we're gonna fill in this space, and we have this. And we have some water over here. And this is already coming down. This is coming down. All right. Now draw the medium-sized shapes. Just a few medium-sized shapes. And the medium. Let's draw this and this to make sure that we've got that left lean. And we can adjust some of this as well. All right, let's take a look at what we've got. We'll go back to our rock and just key through this. And that's where we are right now. All right, so this becomes, in your thought, we're going to get rid of two of the keyframes before it, just on our onion skin. And now I can see just the last one and the one before it. Perfect. All right, so follow each droplet out. This becomes this becomes this. And sometimes what I like to do is just draw a typical water droplet shape at first, and then embellish it just a little bit. This is almost hitting the surface of the water. This one is hitting the surface of the water, so start your ripple. This is coming down and breaking apart into two pieces. This is coming this way. It's broken into two pieces, but they're bigger. This has gone up. This is going over this way. That line that we drew here is now, this line right here, which has come up, has reached its height, but now it's just bringing a bunch of water closest to us, but also losing some of its surface tension. All right, and then we can see that the cone is now just becoming a series of holes. This is almost hitting the ground, the surface of the water. This is moved over to here. This is coming down. So you just have to follow each one of these. It moves about the same kind of distance, frame by frame. All right, let's do one more here. Okay. Water can disappear, so the ripple, it's going to become more rounded. The surface tension is going to bring the water into more circles. So this water here is going behind and falling back down. This water here is clumping together, hitting the surface of the water. All right. All right, one more keyframe here. Let's just take a look at this one, this one. We just want to get this on the books. All right, and I'm going to go backwards. What I'm looking at is this center core. G frame coming up, next to the keyframe we're drawing right now. And then I'm going to draw just this little bit here. And then the same thing that we can do when we're doing a lot of our effects is get the main keys frame set on 2s first so that we can just add to it. So let's take a look at what we've got just on this line right there. Okay, looks great. The timing looks good, so just follow my lead on this. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to do this part, the center part coming up. But let's figure out the timing correctly. So we can't really see it right here. We might be able to see it in this drawing right here. So let's bring 1 volume of water right here. We're going to just draw a little more strongly so we can see it. So now we're going to hit our keyframe. And so now it's broken apart a little bit and it's following exactly what our keyframe looks like. It's still moving upwards, so get it to move upwards. Bring each one of those volumes up a little bit and a little, so now it's come to its stall. So now it's stalling, it's coming to the top of its arc. Now it's a hold, but it's going to start moving down just a little bit. Maybe these two have come together. And now it's starting to fall. This part's falling. This little clump is falling. And it can even come back down together. So as these surface tensions start to bring it back down, they can start to come together. All right, so now I'm going to accelerate it just a little bit and a little bit more. Oops, hold on a second. And a little bit more. I'm going to magically draw two little dots right there. And now I'm on a brand new keyframe. And this one is almost hitting the water so that now this is going to cause a secondary splash. Actually, let's draw one of it hitting the water. And then now this is going to cause a secondary splash. It cannot be and should not be as high as that one. It's only going to be about this high. On twos, bring it up just this far. On twos. And hold. And down. And let me extend this out. Let me F5 the layout. On twos. All right, where am I? I'm here. So now I'm just going to bring these down a little bit and on twos, almost hitting the water and just causing a tiny little splash. Give yourself 3 or 4 drawings of just a couple little bits. Technically, each one of these would have its own little ripple. And let's take a look at what we've got. Save this and play. Okay, it's working pretty good. So follow the lead on that one. Now that these keyframes are set right here, let's just go through this with the G key and see if we can embellish this just a little bit more. I want a little bit more water on the left over here, just because that's what's happening. And I think that we can get away with that. And then these guys all fuse together. This is looking pretty good. Here we want an interior shape. Again, look at the Joe Gilland water. We're looking at as much of that interior shape as we can get. We're not gonna have more than just a few frames, but I think the more that you put in here, if you paint the water blue and then this stuff light blue, it looks really great. And again, in the distance, G key. So we only saw one frame there. On this one, the core, we want to put a couple of lines right there. Some of the students in the past have separated this core so that they can paint it a darker color. which is fine. Oh, because we're losing a bit of volume right here. So let's put in a shape. The danger would be is that it goes backwards. So we have to follow it at least for 2 or 3 drawings. All right, so now let's go and start right here and look at the ripple. So let's put the ripple in, G key, ripple out. And just like we did with many of our effects, we're just going to do this ripple first. I'm just talking about the edge of it. And the ripple moves at a pretty constant rate. So I'm just doing this part first, just to make sure it's in the right place. In the special effects world, the ripples can go away. They can just dissipate. In real life, the only reason they dissipate is because they run into stuff or other ripples intersect them. So let's look at the ripple. We're going to concentrate our eye just on the ripple. That's starting to work pretty good. I can see it. All right, so we were right here. Let's go backwards a keyframe. And let's bring a little bit more of the ripple towards us. It's got to create that perfect oval right there. Maybe a little bit right here. Let's go backwards a keyframe and bring a little bit backwards. Okay, now forwards, forwards. But we're just embellishing the ripple. And remember that it should be a circle that is in perspective. So this ripple should be perfectly circular, but it's in perspective. So keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be continuous, but it should move uniformly at a constant rate. All right, keep going, keep going. And you can see what we've got to do is we've got to do the ripple for that secondary splash. All right, so these are gone away. I mean, we don't have to do anything more here. They're okay. But now this one, as it comes up here, this is coming up. We can start our ripple right here, and we don't need to make this one anywhere near as extensive as the other one. We can just kind of get a few lines working. And remember, the surface of the water is and should be turbulent at this point. And so for whatever it's worth, trying to keep this a perfect level surface is kind of ridiculous. So this secondary water volume is hit, and now it should be causing its own little ripples. In the past, students have realized that they could go crazy, that every time one of these little volumes of water hit the water, that they should have their own little ripples. If you do this correctly, you only need a little bit. You only need a few little lines in the right place to emulate that. So you go backwards and you say, this water right here is hit, and it is going to have a little bit of ripple. Just for 2 or 3 frames, especially the ones that are right up close to the camera. And so go backwards. Let's check this one right here. Oh, hold on. We didn't get this one. This one should be hitting the water. So now it's going to cause a little ripple. And just do this one by itself. You only need 3 or 4 frames. And again, you're just showing the left and the right side. So let's save this and see what this looks like. Right, so now you have your keyframe set, and you can go back in here and you can embellish the water. You can turn your onion skin off. And you can really study what this looks like in terms of the rough, about the interior shapes here, and paint those different colors, constantly going back to saying, oh my God, look at that spray. It's beautiful. In order to pull some of that off here in this pass, now add your detail. Add just a little bit of foam. And you'll see it if you just go to the next keyframe you're going to add. So this one needs a bunch of embellishment here. So go backwards, forwards. Backwards, forwards. So this one, you could use quite a bit more embellishment. And then at least on the next frame, you want as much foam and spray as you can get. It's not like pixie dust, but it is that nothing can be in the same place. So you might want to turn your onion skin back on. And it would be cool if you could turn it off and on really quickly. But what you're trying to do then is get just that little bit of spray. So this one needs spray. All right, does everyone have the idea here? I'm going to save this, and let's go back to our example here. And there are some water splashes, that are quite a bit more simple. You know, there's only 9 keyframes in this one, and it already starts in the ripple. I think that they work. I'm asking you to do something that's really cinematic. And so if the water splash in your volcano is too far away, it might look ridiculous if you try to do something like this. It's up to you. If you're more game oriented and you want to just use a few frames and get a meteorite to hit the water and show a splash like this, it's fine. Remember, there are different kinds of splashes. There are ones that are really simple. There are ones that are a little bit more detail and then further detail. It's up to you. Let's see what this one looks like. It's the same kind of thing, but it's just smaller. And here's water splashes that are kind of moving in more of a random order. I believe this one is like inspired by the Joe Gilland. So it's just follow my directions there and you should be okay. It's up to you whether you want to put the water in the volcano or as a standalone piece. It's up to you.